All right, ladies and gentlemen, Dan Tomaszewski here. Hope you're all doing well. I do apologize for the delay. We were running into some technical difficulties here, getting some audio connections. So I do apologize about that. Very excited to bring on our guest, Colin Hogg with Movebot. And we'll bring Colin on. There he
There
is.
he is.
How you doing
How
today,
you doing
Colin?
today, Colin? I'm doing very well, Dan. Thank you. It's nice to catch up with you again.
Absolutely, and
Absolutely,
we're
and
we're
we're
talking about
talking about
a critical
a critical
topic
topic
when it
when
comes
it comes
to data
to data
migration.
migration.
We want to
We want to
ensure
ensure
that
that
any kind of
any
data
kind of data
migration is
migration is
smooth and
smooth and
seamless.
seamless.
As we were
As we
talking
were
about the
talking
other
about the other
day,
day,
when you do a
when you
data
do a data
migration, in
migration,
the
in the
event
event
that there is
that there
any
is
kind
any
of
kind of
hiccups,
hiccups,
it
it
ultimately is
ultimately is
gonna,
gonna,
number
number
one,
one,
lack the
lack the
confidence
confidence
for our
for our
clients,
clients,
but it's
but it's
also
also
going
going
to
to
give us,
give us,
lack of
lack of
confidence in
confidence
in our
in our
organization.
organization.
And I
And
do see
I do see
Matthew is
Matthew is
indicating that
indicating that
there's a lot of
there's a lot of
echo here.
echo here.
So
So
I'm going to have
I'm going to have
Colin jump
Colin
in
jump in
and
and
give an
give an
introduction of
introduction of
himself and
himself
move
and
on before we
Movebot before
begin
we
our
begin our
content.
content.
And I'm going to
And
try to
I'm going to try
correct
to
that
correct
issue
that
here.
issue here. Cool. Okay, Dan. Hey guys and the audience. It's great to be on the show here. And yeah, what we're trying to do with MoveBot is really build the best sort of data migration tool to make getting those moves for as an MSP in if you're moving data for your clients, whether that be onboarding onto the stack or whether that be just doing a project to for some platform consolidation or whatever the reason is. What we've what MSPs have told us in the past is, and Dan alluded to this in the introduction, there is that if something doesn't go quite nicely or quite well, then that can start to have a confidence erosion. And what we're trying to do with MoveBot is really make that whole process really quite seamless. And it it might be for a number of reasons that we're really trying to just make the whole process very, very simple. So it allows you to operate with connectivity over 30 different platforms, and have that confidence that we're actually going to move that data nicely for you.
Excellent.
Excellent.
And we'll just
And
see
we'll
if
just see if
we're still
we're still
hearing my
hearing my
echo.
echo.
Um,
Um,
if I can get
if I can
some
get some
feedback,
feedback, if anybody hears,
do you hear my
do you hear my
echo,
echo,
Colin?
Colin? I don't, but yeah,
Still there.
still there.
Okay.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right.
So I'm going to
So I'm going to
continue
continue
to
to
fix
fix
that,
that,
but
but
while
while
we
we
while I'm working
while
on
I'm working
fixing
on
that,
fixing that,
I just want
I
to
just want to
say that
say that
it's pretty
it's pretty
obvious, or
obvious,
might
or
seem
might seem
obvious that
obvious
we're talking
that we're
about
talking
data
about data
migration.
migration.
But
But
there
there
are a lot
are
of
a lot of
reasons why
reasons why
MSPs do
MSPs do
these.
these.
So,
So,
Colin,
Colin, can
jump
you
into
jump
some of
into
the
some of the
reasons
reasons
why
why
that
that
MSPs are doing
MSPs are doing
migrations?
migrations? Yeah, what we come across very often is one. Obviously, if you're onboarding a new client into your stack, you whether that be into 365 or into Ignite or something along those lines, you obviously, as an MSP, want to get everybody operating in that environment as quickly and as seamlessly as possible. So that's one of the primary reasons that we see people doing migrations. The other one is where the client is looking to maybe change platforms, and I kind of call this platform consolidation, where you're saying quite often with a business, there may be some data in Dropbox, there may be some data in Google, there may be some data in SharePoint, and you want to sort of consolidate all that into a sort of central place. So yeah, so that's another reason there. Mergers and acquisitions, of course, when one company acquires another, that gives rise to things like tenant to tenant migrations, SharePoint to SharePoint, Google to Google, etc. So with the platform, that's what we're basically really trying to make that really easy to any of those reasons why someone wants to move, or an MSP has a project to move data. We want to basically provide that platform for them to do that. Are you still muted? Oh, you're still muted, Dan. Yep.
All right. Oh, I can hear myself. But I think I'm still going. So me jump back over here. So I will still continue to correct this sound issue here. One of the things that I wanted to mention is for anybody that hasn't seen Movebot, how would you describe Movebot in your overall solution?
Yep. So I would say that Movebot is, we designed the product to basically be operating on the next gen architecture. So it's a fully 100% cloud native platform. There's absolutely zero barriers to entry from an MSP's perspective. You can jump in, you can basically set up your account and get connected and run a migration straight away. And I guess one of the other unique elements that we have is that we've got probably the most comprehensive cloud connectivity, or connectivity across all the different platforms. So that is sort of the basis of the platform. What we're then trying to do is make the whole process really simple and really easy, and we're constantly iterating on the product based on feedback, based on what our developers see people doing in the platform. Sorry, Dan's gone here. I'm not sure if I'm still live, but I'll carry on. So constantly iterating on the platform, and we really make changes. Yeah. So yeah, that's a sort of an overall view of what we're doing. It can be, Movebot can be a bit of a Swiss Army knife when it comes to basically moving data, whether that be file data or whether it be email data. You've got we provide a reliable platform for MSPs to get their data going.
All right, we're going to try this again here. And I feel like I'm still echoing here. What I'm gonna do here is while we're trying to correct this is I'm gonna have Colin, you just jump right in and start talking through because I want to make sure that we're getting quality content out there. So go ahead and just kind of take the reins and talk through. So it won't be quite as conversational. I do apologize, everybody.
Cool. Okay, guys, I'm happy to do that. And what I might do is just give you a little bit of a background also about who we are and what we're about. It's I've got a little slideshow that I'm going to present here. Just tell you a little bit about us as well. So we are, the company name is actually Couchdrop, and Movebot is our data migration product. We really like getting involved with the MSP community. The picture here is of us and the team at MSP Geek in Orlando earlier on this year, and it's just great to connect and have that opportunity to meet with people and hear what's happening in their worlds and in your worlds. So yeah, and as an organization, we have two products. One is Movebot, which obviously we're talking about here, which is our data migration product, and the other is CouchDrop, which is our cloud native SFTP solution. So with CouchDrop, it's also open for MSPs to utilize, and we have a number that will do that. A common use case would be SFTP directly into SharePoint for a number of clients. So that's kind of the sales pitch about who we are. We are based here in New Zealand. We do cover a global audience, and we probably work with over 2,000 MSPs globally, which is fantastic. So we really enjoy working with the community. The little picture on the bottom right there, develop painkillers, not vitamins. That's something that's up on the wall just behind me here with the development team, and what they're looking to do is basically develop the things that cause pain for MSPs. It's that old thing. We all love to have vitamins, and you can basically take those, but we don't tend to keep taking them. We feel good for a while, but then it's not really a pain point. So when we're looking at the development and the constant iterations that we're doing across Movebot, we like to sort of work on making sure that we're taking that pain away and constantly iterating on the product. Sorry, I'm just going to stop sharing for a second. So that's kind of who we are and what we're about. And some of the things I was going to talk to Dan about was just this investment in the product on an ongoing basis. We, as in response to requests from MSPs, around about 18 months ago, we introduced email migrations into the platform. And the other things that we've seen recently, and that's gone exceptionally well. We've got MSPs all over the world using us to migrate emails from on-prem to the cloud, tenant to tenant, etc. Google to SharePoint, and so on, and that's working exceptionally well. And a lot of that comes, back from the feedback that we get. It was a really nice, rapid development for us, and we get the feedback from MSPs. That allows us to constantly make the product better. Another thing that has happened over the last 18 months, 2 years time is we've been doing a lot of investment in making SharePoint migrations much quicker and more efficient for MSPs. So what we saw in the bad old days of COVID times was that rush to the cloud, getting all the data up there into whichever platform that may be, and often into SharePoint. And the result was, sure, people were able to operate within that environment, but it maybe wasn't done or structured correctly or in the best way. And since then, there's been a lot of people learning, about wanting to move that data around. So we have seen a huge uptake and are in doing migrations into SharePoint, between SharePoint tenants, between data in the same SharePoint tenant. So what we've been doing, and the developers have been doing, is monitoring those jobs, looking at ways to make the whole mapping process easier, and so on, and just really trying to make that life easier for MSPs to do the job. How are you doing on the sound there, Dan?
Yeah, I was gonna check here and see. Still hearing echo. So So I'm going to ask a question. We know that SharePoint has a migration tool that Microsoft makes available. Um, why should we not consider that?
I wouldn't say you shouldn't consider it. Obviously, it's there as an option. Um, in general, what we do with Movebot is when you're doing a migration, there will be errors. There will be things that will happen. And what whether it's with another tool, if if the migration simply stops at and fails, and you've no reporting and no data, no information, and you're doing a 50 terabyte or even a 10 terabyte or 5 terabyte migration, it doesn't really matter. You really want to have the confidence that the data has been moved from one place to the other. With Movebot, if we come across a failure, we will just basically skip that file. We'll absolutely flag it. We'll say that there's an issue, and then we'll move on to the next thing. So the priority is making sure that the data gets to where it's meant to be, and then you can have a couple of options, and maybe we can talk about the sort of process of how we do those migrations. But we will absolutely show where there's errors, where there's issues, and ensure that MSPs have the confidence that the data has
Right,
moved
right.
where it needs to go. Yeah. So we don't. If basically what I'm saying is, if there's a problem, we'll carry on. We'll make sure the data gets to where it needs to go, and then we can come back and surface the issues. But we will always show you where those issues are.
Yeah, and when we take a look at the different type of on-prem to on-prem, cloud to cloud, on-prem to cloud, what are you seeing most of right now?
I think in most of the migrations that we're seeing, we're seeing still a move to the cloud. That's still absolutely the prime move. But we have seen an increased trend in people moving back. Coming back to the taking data out of the cloud and putting it back on-prem. So I would say in the last 8 months, we've seen a bigger increase in that, but obviously still people going to the cloud as well. So, there is I guess the thing that's changed recently has been that moving the data back back to on-prem for some instances. And sometimes that's just to have a physical backup of some cloud data. Not that we're a backup tool, but you can take a copy of that data and move that across back to on-prem as well. And we have a few MSPs that offer that as a service to their clients as well.
I know since our last webinar, you guys have added quite a bit more features. Can you give us elaborate a little bit on that?
Sure. So one of the things we've done, I mentioned about SharePoint. One of the key things that we've done with SharePoint is try to make the data migrations faster into SharePoint, and we've introduced basically what we call ludicrous mode. So that should allow data to get popped into SharePoint much quicker. And I'm talking typically around about 1 to 2 terabytes per day. Sometimes it's faster, and it is also governed by the number of files and the size of files and the distribution of files. So if you've got 100 meg of data and 2 million files, that's going to take a bit of time. But if you've got 4 terabytes of data and only 100,000 files, we're going to get that moved very quickly, and that gives us that performance boost into the likes of SharePoint that we expect going into the other platforms that we partner with, with Dropbox and Ignite and Google and so on. we can see terabytes a day of data a day going into those platforms. So that's, in terms of features, it's really just adding that extra functionality there for getting data into SharePoint. And just, what I mentioned before with regards to sort of like mailbox migrations and calendar migrations. Calendars can be quite squirrely. They can be quite complex. So we've added support to make sure that those calendar migrations really go as smoothly as possible. If you ask anyone about calendar migrations, they always put their hands in the air. So the team here have been monitoring that and developing solutions just to try and make that as easy as possible.
So when you take a look at maybe like top three to five challenges that accompany data migration, what are ways that you assist to overcome them?
The first and foremost thing would be actually, running a scan at the very beginning of the data migration process. It's probably worth putting this slide up here. If you basically run this helps you discover exactly what's going on in the source platform, because we've had examples where it was a large media company and they were moving from one cloud platform into another. And when they initially came to us, they said, "Oh, we've got 280 terabytes of data," which is not an insignificant amount of data. And when we ran the discovery scan, we discovered that there was actually only 180 terabytes of data. And the reason for that is can be sharing, can be multiple versions, etc. But that has a big impact on both the time it's going to take to migrate that data from one platform to the other, and also the cost. So running that discovery scan helps MSPs really scope out the project, set realistic timescales. It will also highlight that's going ahead of time for what the issues are likely to be.
How long does a discovery scan typically take? Is it quite extensive for that to go through?
It really depends on the platform. And if there's anything, obviously we're doing API calls, but we've done a discovery scan of a relatively small data set of a few terabytes will be done in.
I can put a comment out to everyone.
Like that. But a discovery scan on 100 terabytes is going to take a little bit longer. And I say that again, if there are 100 terabytes could take 3 to 4 days to run, but that will just basically run in the background. It doesn't impact anyone, but it will then provide that sort of base information. For most SMB businesses, your discovery scan will be done in about 24 hours for the data sets that we typically see.
And essentially, that's a huge investment in your time. You're going to get a solid return, and hopefully nobody else is hearing any more echoes. If you don't mind, anybody out there, if you could just respond to chat. Crossing my fingers right now that you guys respond saying the echo is gone, because I'm not hearing any feedback anymore. But so beyond that, can we talk about another challenge that you guys are able to address?
Sure. Yeah, I guess often when you're moving data, or if you're doing a merger and acquisition project, for example, you don't necessarily need to move all the data. And With Movebot and the ability, you can get incredibly granular of the data that you move. So you can basically say, I want this subset of this folder in this document library to go into this other document library, but we're not interested in any of that other data. So that just makes the ability to prioritize the project. You can choose the data that you want to get across quickly, and therefore overcome that issue. But also, you don't have to say, I'm going to take all of this. You can basically that whole granular aspect of saying, I can be really picky of the data that I want to get across. I can prioritize this. I can get the important stuff across, and then I can come back for the other data. So yeah.
So when you do that discovery scan and you're identifying all the data that's out there, you could take a look at some data that's more archival, and kind of deprioritize that for being moved after the fact. So you move all the critical data that's going to have an impact on end users' day-to-day operations, and then just segment the rest for later.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you can do that. You can make that decision at a sort of whole project level, or you can actually make that decision at an individual transfer level. So, when I say an individual transfer level, that could be we're moving the marketing folder from point A to point B, and I'm only interested in the last 2 years worth of data. We get that across there. The users become operational on the platform, and then we can come back and move the older data if that's required. Or we might choose to move that older data to an archive platform.
Okay, makes sense. And tell me, I had another question here I wanted to jump into in regards to, some of the, when it comes to email migrations, some specific advice that you would give MSPs when approaching that.
Yeah, emails. Within the platform, we handle emails very much like, or very similarly to doing a data migration. The requirement to do a scan in email migrations is probably less important. There's less need to do that. So you can actually, but you can then just set up moving the most recent data. Correct myself. Moving the older data first. So before while you're uh, setting up your email migration, you can say, okay, I'm going to move data that's older than 60 days so that it populates the destination platform with that older email. And then when you come to do that switchover, and the rationale for doing that is APIs on all the major platforms for email migrations are slower than data migrations. So that if we can get that data seeded in the first instance and use the older data to get older emails, get them populated first. When we come to do that switchover, which might be over a couple of days or over a weekend or something like that, then we're only looking at moving the most recent data, and then we can do some delta moves to get everything over. So you basically de-stress the whole situation by getting data and the emails across first, then bring the last set of emails, and then the very last stage, you then bring the contacts and calendars across. That would be typically how we would recommend doing sort of email migrations.
And when we talk about, breaking this up into phases or, kind of beginning the process, obviously, when you set this up and you're going to be doing it over a weekend, you clearly want to have visibility to what's going on throughout the process and keep an eye on it. Are there ways to get notifications that if there is any kind of a hiccup, or do you need to be more visual and be in the app and keeping an eye on it?
right? Sorry, I was about to cough there. Both is the answer. If so you can have notifications to tell you, you can set that up, and you can set up notifications to go on a project to different clients if need be. If you want to keep someone involved, business owner involved, to let them know what's happening, you can set that up. We don't often see that, but that's available. But in terms of the actual visual aspect, and we do have people, the whole point of Movebot is that you don't have to nursemaid the product. You can literally, set the migration away, go away and do something much more interesting instead, and then come back. But
right.
If you want to, we have fantastic reporting. You can literally watch the everything that's happening, see exactly what's going on. We will flag up if there are performance issues, and we will alert on that as well to say it may well. So a common thing is rate limiting, and maybe there's and that could be particularly in a SharePoint tenant. There could be other things happening in a SharePoint tenant. And something that we see very often is rate limiting, and it could be that there's a backup tool that's running. If we can pause that backup tool, that's going to speed up the migration. And you've kind of alluded to this earlier on, Dan. Sometimes people have used other tools. If those other tools are still running, they're taking up API calls. So if we can, quite often we'll find piece of advice is to improve the performances, make sure there's nothing else running, so that we've got in the SharePoint environment, we've got access to the API calls as possible. But yeah, as far as visibility of what's going on, you can sit back and wait for the emails, or you can dive in there and watch it line by line if you really want to. And I know that there are people that do that. So yeah, and I know the audience likes to know exactly what's going on. So yeah, you can.
And I was recently talking to an MSP that uses your product, and I can't remember exactly the words that they used, but essentially what they indicated is that Movebot is more than just a product. It really is a service. And I asked for them to elaborate a little bit more on that. And what they indicated is that when they were doing a migration, they were running into some challenges, and they were able to reach out to your support, and you guys were able to help them through that process. And I'd love to hear that feedback, because when you take a look at a lot of software tools that are out there that we use as MSPs, a lot of times it's just a tool or a product that's out there. And what he alluded to was more so that, you guys essentially are here to service and provide service. And I assume it's available around the clock.
Yeah, basically we've got the support team, and it's great to hear positive feedback for the support team. I noticed Brady has said that I'm sort of going in and out, so I'm going to move closer to my microphone here, which hopefully will help. So yeah, so the support team are here to help. I mean, I'm literally watching Chris, who you've talked to before, talking with a client right now in the next room. So yeah, we are. We're there to provide that support. We know with MSPs that there's often a time pressure involved, and especially if it's the first time they're using the product, there might be you want to develop a bit of confidence in it, and we want to make sure that we back all the MSPs up. Okay,
and that's great. I mean, because clearly. As an MSP, there's a lot of pressure, right? And, and to be able to partner with an organization to ensure that, they're going to stand behind the product and help you through it, that helps just take some of that, pressure off your back. And it's invaluable.
It is invaluable, and honestly, that two-way communication helps everyone, because that's where there is a very close relationship between the support team, the customer success support team here, and our developers. So if we see see things, the developers are very active in the product looking at this as well, but customers, MSPs giving us some feedback allows us to quickly iterate if there is something. So by us talking with people, it's hugely valuable.
And taking a look at the fact that you guys have over 30 integrations, I mean, that's huge. And I mean, you guys clearly didn't happen overnight, right? So, I would say that you guys probably spent quite a bit of time identifying, what are the key platforms that MSPs are working with and how you can, make it easier for them. How do you continue to evaluate, other platforms that you might want to have supported?
Okay, primarily comes from demand, and also if there is a manageable API that we can develop out from some platforms that we've had requests for, we will go and have a look at, and the APIs are provided by those platforms are just really not suitable. Or in some instances, they don't allow extraction of the data. So in those ones, obviously, we're hamstrung. We can't do anything. But other platforms, recently, we introduced pCloud and Amazon WorkDocs. Amazon WorkDocs is, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's being deprecated, but it's essentially like a Google Docs environment in the Amazon space. So, we now have a connector that will only as a source, not a destination. Makes no sense to put something deprecated product, right?
Sure.
So,
I mean, it'd be like having Commodore 64 or it's the Texas Instrument being as a destination.
Yeah, it's like putting your data back on a floppy disk. It's just not really practical. So we've seen the uptake, because people obviously going, Amazon WorkDocs customers are going, I need to get my data out. And then, within the platform we developed that connector. pCloud was another one that came across, and that was from someone that had that requirement to move data out of pCloud. ShareFile is something we've seen quite a. I'm looking at our connections here, and I'm thinking about the trends that we've seen recently as well. Sometimes just making sure that we are keeping up to date with all those connectors is a bit of a game of whack-a-mole as well. So Microsoft or Google will make changes, and they don't necessarily communicate them. They don't necessarily document them. So we're then sitting in the background, and that's what we do. We'll see errors in a job. The developers will see errors in jobs and jobs failing, and we go, okay, well, why are these jobs failing? Okay, there's someone made it. There's a change here, so we can go and fix that in the back end. And actually, that can happen proactively, and fix something before an MSP even notices that there's a problem. So that's the level of activity we do, particularly with in supporting all of these different connectors.
Okay, that's great. And and anything coming up? Any kind of plans for the future that you're able to share, or nothing quite yet that you're?
The key thing really is a couple of things that are being worked on at the moment is to make the mapping of the drives from on-prem servers to the cloud much easier. Again, it's an iteration of something that we pushed out a couple of months ago, where you can almost do an auto mapping. It was easier for the cloud, less so for the on-prem solutions. So now, that's something that will come out. We don't have the way we tend to operate, we don't have a defined roadmap, simply because things change all the time, priorities change all the time. But what we are absolutely committed to is just making the product faster and easier for people to use.
Have you run into situations where an MSP's doing data migration from multiple platforms simultaneously, and are you can you work together in those instances?
Yeah, absolutely. The tool is absolutely set up to that. Every project that you would run in the tool runs on its own independent infrastructure, and so if you were pulling data from one cloud platform and going into the other, then you could have 4 different cloud platforms all going into one destination. The challenge arrives, particularly in some of the destinations. I'm going to bring SharePoint up again. The challenge arrives with SharePoint is we've only got a certain amount of API calls before Microsoft say, "Hey, we've had enough. You're hitting us with API calls." So whilst it's absolutely not a problem to do it, Movebot won't be overwhelmed by it, but we will, or we can, in some instances, overwhelm a destination platform. So again, that's where the performance advisor works, and then it's just a case of maybe staging those projects. But yeah, taking multiple platforms into one platform, not a problem at all.
Does that happen quite a bit, or is that a little bit more rare?
It's probably a little bit more, a little bit more rare on a day-to-day basis. It tends to be for a larger MSP working with a sort of larger data set. I think one project that the support team have been working and helping someone on was like over 250 terabytes, and that was coming from on-premise servers in different countries, different cloud platforms, all being centralized into one cloud platform. So in that instance, you've got a lot of moving parts, and the other complication that came along with that particular migration was some of the data had been migrated by other tools at different points in times, so there was duplicate data in one place and the other. So this is actually probably a more common scenario where we'll come in after another tool, or maybe sometime after another tool, and we've got some new data sitting in the platform, some old data here that hasn't moved, and how do we overcome that? So basically, which we do with the Delta functionality here. So when you can basically run deltas. You do that at the very beginning. You go, when I run my migration, I do my scan, get my discovery scan, and then I'm going to run my migration, but I'm going to do it what we call a full migration, where we scan the source and scan the destination, and say, okay, which is the most recent mod time? If there's a more recent mod time in the destination, then we won't move this file from the source. But if there's no data in the destination, or the data in the source is newer, then that data comes across. So I think rather than being multi-platform, that scenario comes up every week. Every week we'll get an email saying, "Hey, I've got this problem from an MSP. I've got this problem. How do I overcome it?" I saw that this week. So yeah.
Yeah. So like in those situations where, you're mentioning that, there might be some limits in the API call outs with SharePoint. What happens in those cases? Does it fail? Does it stop? Does it, is there any kind of indication that maybe you guys are slowing down the process then? What does that look like?
It basically slows down. So
okay.
what we can do so we have recently set up standard performance profiles, so that if you're doing a particular type of migration, we will actually set the number of worker nodes and the number of active threads and so on that we know typically work for that type of migration to try and overcome that problem. And 90% of the time, that works fine. There's not a problem. We don't see that. But what can happen? Let's say if we discover that there's a backup tool running, or there's still the remnants of another migration tool running and taking up API calls, often by switching those off, then we can pick up the speed again. But SharePoint is probably the biggest problem, our biggest challenge, if you like, in that front. Yeah, basically the short answer is we'll slow down, we'll advise, and we can make adjustments as well to get the data across. Sometimes it's a tortoise and a hare situation. You don't want to.
Yeah.
If you slam Microsoft with a lot of API calls, Microsoft goes, get away, get stuff.
Right.
And then they go, right, okay, we're standing you down for 5 minutes, and then this is literally what happens. Standing you down for 5 minutes, and then they open up the gates and you go slam back in. They go stand you down for another 5 minutes. So you get a little bit across. So it's much better for us not to do that. If we can avoid those 5 minute blocks that we're able to back off, then that's what we do, and you'll find that the data will move much quicker.
So there's the beauty is there's some intelligence that helps to manage that on the back end, and it just makes that more seamless. Yeah, that's great. So as we're and I do again, I apologize everybody for our technical difficulties here. You can't be perfect all the time, but we're always going to run into something like that. So I am a little bit off track here, and I just want to make sure that if I have missed anything that you wanted to get across, any valuable information, is there anything else that you wanted to share before we start wrapping up?
I think we've covered most of it. I would just say, to the audience, hey, we're here, we're friendly, we're willing, absolutely keen and eager to help you make your data migrations, nice and easy. You don't even have to talk to us. You can't. You don't have. We're not a massively salesy organization. You can jump into the product. You can start a free trial. You can get some data to play around with. You can reach out to the team via email support, via chat support. They'll jump on. So don't be scared to jump in and try. But yeah, here, if you want to jump in, we're always happy to talk. So, yeah.
And we do have a special offer available for everyone. And I'm going to have Talon throw into chat a link to your deals page at everythingmsp.com. But if you could just elaborate a little bit about the special offer that is available.
Yeah, sure. We're keen to get everyone, all the audience, to give the product a try. And there's the deal chat that Talon's popped in there. Also, I've popped something up on the screen there.
Oh yeah.
Basically, we'll give we give you the confidence. We stand by our product. We're happy for new MSPs to jump on board, to come through this link. We'll populate their account with a terabyte of data, so that'll allow them to test out emails, test out our data migration as well. The one thing I should have mentioned when I talked about emails, we have a capped price for email boxes. So basically, if you're running a mail migration, we cap the price at the equivalent of 10 gig, and that as a list price is $7.50 per mailbox, which is pretty good anyway. But if that mailbox is only 2 gig, then it's $1.50. And if that mailbox is under 500 meg, 499 meg, actually we don't charge for it. So the mailbox migrations can offer MSPs a really competitive, a competitive offer out there, as well as a great service.
Yeah, no, that's very attractive. That just being, just kind of scaled levels like that. Because certainly, there are mailboxes that are smaller that are out there, and be able to cut back on some of that associated cost is great. And so we have added in the chat. Talon has thrown in Colin's LinkedIn connection, as well as the deals information. In addition to that, if you would like to get a hold of Colin, he is just thrown up on the screen here, Colin at couchdrop.io, as well as his phone number, and you can reach out to them. Of course, you can always go to everythinmsp.com, and right from the homepage, you can search for Movebot. You can find them directly, find some information. We have ways for you to reach out to Movebot directly from that as well. With that being said, and we wrap things up, once again, I do apologize for our technical difficulties, but hopefully we're still able to provide you with some great education today. Colin, as always, I want to thank you for your time and knowledge. We greatly appreciate everything that you guys do for our MSP community. So thank you very much.
Dan, it's always a pleasure to chat with you, and great to present to the community, and we'd love to hear from them. So great.
Awesome. All right, everybody, until next time, we will talk to you soon. Have a great day and take care. Thank you.